Oh, okay. All right. Hey, hey, Jim. All right, let's get this started. Good evening, everybody. First, I want to thank you all very much for coming to our public involvement meeting for tonight for the Huntsville TMA certification review. I sound kind of different in the microphone when I hear myself. Okay. My name is Lian Li. I'm a community planner with the Federal Highway Administration out of the Montgomery office. My colleague, also team leader, Mr. Clint Andrews, is also here with me. And then we have the MPO staff, and then Mr. Doolin and Mr. Oranica from Alabama Department of Transportation. So why we're here, let me do the slides. So we do this, the Federal Transit Administration, the Federal Transit Administration and the Federal Highway Administration conduct a review of the transportation planning process of a transportation management area every 4 years. The Huntsville MPO is a designated TMA. And public involvement meeting is a part of the review. Let's see. Oh. So you're here because we want to hear from you, your thoughts and your concerns about the transportation planning process of the MPO. We want to hear from you, want you to share with us your thoughts. So tonight, you can provide your comments verbally or written comments. We will collect them, and then, or if you have any more comments, you can make your comments within the next 30 days via email or by postal mail, or you can call us. And your comments will be included in our final report. Let's see. So the outcome typically for a TMA certification review, there are 3 possible outcomes. So the first is certified, means the TMA is doing a good job and then their planning process is in compliance with the federal laws. And the second, another one would be certified with a corrective action, means there are certain things that the MPO needs to make some corrections on so they can stay in compliance with the federal planning laws. And the third is certified that we will only certify a certain part of the program. Oh, sorry. Went back. So what is planning process? Planning process is a process that's used to make transportation decisions, and it's used to plan, prioritize, and select projects for implementation for your region. Oh my goodness. Sorry. So why is the planning process important? Ooh. Well, because we're spending taxpayers' money. It's your money, it's my money, and then we want to know how we're going to spend the money and on what. And because we have such shortage of funding, and the MPO has to prioritize the needs so they can make the best investment, make the best bang for the buck. And also it's because the planning process can help build a very solid foundation for future transportation system. So the MPO has many planning partners. The Alabama Department of Transportation, the public transit operator, the cities, local cities, counties, citizens like yourself, interest groups like the Sierra Club or any bike and ped enthusiasts, and the federal agencies. So the MPO takes a 3C approach to their planning process. It's supposed to be continuing, cooperative, and comprehensive. It's supposed to be multimodal, means it's not just for motorized users, but also for non-motorized users, for people that don't have cars or choose to walk or ride their bicycles. And public input is also a very critical part of this process. So the MPO works really hard to produce these programs and plans, including Unified Planning Work Program, Metropolitan Transportation Plan, also known as a Long Range Transportation Plan, Congestion Management Process, Transportation Improvement Program, and a Public Participation Plan. So what is a Unified Planning Work Program? It's a planning document that the MPO uses to list all the planning activities that the MPO will undertake for a given year. It tells how the MPO is going to spend the planning funding, what are the things they're going to spend the money on, and pretty much it's a budget. It's a program and a budget for planning. So the long-range transportation plan, just as the name itself implies, it's for future transportation. It's a transportation planning for the future. So it projects 20 years out to determine the needs and transportation needs, and also possible potential solutions for certain transportation problems. And it needs to contain financial plans and objectives, and also public involvement is a very critical part of the long-range transportation plan. So congestion management process is a process the MPO uses to determine the areas that have the most congestion within the MPO area. So you're looking at a short-term strategy for the congestion management. Could it be an intersection improvement, like a signalization improvement to make the traffic flow better? Or long-term, could it be, adding more capacity, more lanes to a roadway? But that needs a lot of money to do that. So a TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, is a list of projects for the next 4 years. And it prioritizes the regional projects and funding and implementation. So you can see this diagram. That's how important public involvement is. embedded in every stage and every level of the planning process, from the unified planning work program to transportation plan and to the TIP. So this is how the products all fit together. You can also see that public involvement is a crucial part of it. So we want to hear from you. If you have any comments, the questions that we want to ask you, do you have adequate opportunity to participate in the MPO planning process? And have you been involved in the MPO planning process? What are your thoughts? So the floor is yours. Well, before we begin, we have some speakers cards. And, well, do you have any questions regarding this presentation? Okay. We have some speaker cards, and if there are a lot of people that want to speak, we have to kind of time you. You have 5 minutes to speak, and if we don't have a lot of speakers, I guess we can speak for the next 40 minutes. All right. Anybody who needs a speaker card? I know. Yeah. Okay. All right. Miss Jenny.
So I'm Jamie Murnick, and I'm on the BASC, which is the Bicycle Advisory and Safety Committee. It's a Huntsville committee that has been around for about, 8 years now? Something like that, pretty long. And it's citizens and members of the city of Huntsville. So some of these planners in this room even come to those meetings, and traffic engineers too. And so we've tried to advise the city on things about bicycling and ped. We have also suggested and asked why the MPO doesn't have its own committee. We have even gone so far as to volunteer the BASC as being the MPO's committee of Bicycle Advisory and Safety. The MPO, in the guidance, federal guidance for MPO, suggests that they do want to honor their multimodal bullet, like you just saw up there, and have information about bike ped and do things that coordinates. And it's been brought up every other year for the past. I think the first time I brought it up, Loretta Spencer was still mayor. But anyway, we bring it up every now and then. And a couple years ago when you brought it up, there was a kind of an internal ad hoc committee of a few of the MPO members who said, okay, we're the bike committee now. It's Dennis and 2 other people or something. There's a kind of an internal group that you were on it, but anyway, there's so within MPO, a few people said, well, we can speak for bikes, we can try to work that in. But the problem has always been for transportation planning that anything that ever got planned for bikes was always kept separate. Here's a bikeway plan. They never looked at it in terms of doing things in transportation planning until recently. Recently, they have started looking at it, and recently they have made a much better attempt to try to get bike facilities such as shoulders, bike lanes, whatever, on roads that are being rebuilt or newly built. That has just in the past few years come to pass. But I'm asking why there isn't a bike ped committee with citizens on it, similar to our BASC committee for Huntsville, or maybe that's it. Maybe that could be expanded slightly and be the MPO committee, get some people from Madison and other places on it and make it a more MPO committee. And why isn't there a bike policy? We are right now pointing at, from the MPO, to a 10-year-old bikeways plan from Huntsville, a 13-year-old plan from Madison, similarly aged greenway and sidewalk plans from the city that, are decades old. And we don't have anything really current. And it's really way past due, even for Huntsville to do something about it. So I'm suggesting that the MPO does something about it. Not just Huntsville, but the MPO. Take over that function of having a committee, having planning, having policy that is actively pursued and incorporated and melded together with the transportation planning that is supposed to be going on for this MPO. Because to honor your multimodal bullet, it's important. And I think there's a lot of people that, just think of the activity. We have a transportation quarterly right here. You can see that 2 or 3 things in here are bike related. It's starting to have more traction even among people and the mayor and things that we do and a new bike share starting in town. There's things happening, and the city needs to, the city who maintains or what you facilitate the MPO, the city of Huntsville facilitates our MPO. So it's really the MPO needs it, but the city of Huntsville somehow, and you say, well, we don't have enough people to do it, and it's, so somehow, I don't know if it's funding, or if it's people, or if it's will. I think will comes first, and then other things change, and I'm standing up for it again, because this is something I've been doing for a long time, and I just have to say something that I'm still not satisfied with what's going on, basically, in the support in this city, and that the MPO should know that it's on them. Look at your guidelines. They say that you're supposed to have a bike ped committee policy and plan. They don't. We've been asking for it for a dozen years. They still don't. So I'm asking again answers to those questions. The other part of the thing that I wrote down there was the TAP funding, which was something that started 2-3 years ago when they rearranged the federal funding. It used to be called TE grants and stuff like that, and we would apply for those and get money for things on occasion. But now because we're an MPO, we get this little chunk of money every year for TAP funding. And I know we have 2 projects right now. There, you can read about one of them in here, and the other, it's the one about the greenway under the 565 connecting to Redstone. And then last time there was one of these, they talked about the other one, which is an extension of the Aldrich Creek Greenway. So those were 2 things that TAP funding was going to be used for, and that was for several years back, 1 or 2 years and 1 or 2 years. But recently, I haven't heard anything about TAP funding in the last year or 2, and I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you're supposed to have something in place to say every year we solicit projects, we review them, and we do that per some process, which I don't know of that happening. And I'm wondering why it's not happening. And I think we should know more about that, because that is money that we're supposed to be spending on multimodal kind of things. And yet if the MPO doesn't have something in place to handle it, it falls between the cracks like it usually does. So I'm bringing it up, and I would like answers, and maybe.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
In your speaker card, you said you're on the bicycle advisory and safety committee.
I am, as a citizen member. We're half and half.
Committee.
It's the City of Huntsville's committee. And it has 4 or 5 city employees who really do volunteer their own time and come after work and come to a meeting once a month. And then the citizens come too. There's, a handful of us both, so there's 10 to 12 people, and, maybe 8 to 10 at a meeting, and we meet nearly every month and bring up a lot of things about traffic, engineering, planning, improvements, things that people bring to us, and we'll bring it up. And there's been a lot of work. We've got a lot of things done that way. But honestly, the function of that committee, I think, should be at the MPO. And it could get more done.
I will go ahead and speak to that. It'll be in our review. Mostly we take comments, but if there's a question, and I'm sure there may be some others that ask the question, We do encourage to have a bicycle committee on the MPO. It's not required, as you saw the other ones, but it is up to the board if they would like to have a committee. And we'll speak to the staff about it and what the pitfalls of it are and what requirements are. The bicycle and pedestrian plan is part of the long-range plan. They're not required to have a separate plan, but it is required to be the long-range plan is required to be multimodal. There is a large section of it, as you are probably aware of. I know the MPO spoke of updating their plan, and we'll have further discussions on that. But there is some minimum requirements to be part of a long-range plan, and we've made recommendations on it before, and we'll make more recommendations on it. It is up to the board to adopt the plan and have a multimodal component of it. The TAP program, and I can let the MPO answer that, speak to it, but the TAP program does require a process for selection, as any other projects are, and I think we talked about it today about how they plan projects, and I'm sure the MPO can address that in future meetings, but this is a fairly new process for MPOs, so
4 or 5 years now, right?
well, it started with Safety Lou, and TAP has been around for quite a while, but the part where the MPOs control the TAP funding, that's a new
What
component.
was the year that it started?
I don't know,
5 years.
5 years.
That's kind of new, I guess.
Well, there is a process for it. All of them adopted a process, and for ranking projects. It is a solicitation of projects. Whether it, and we can talk with staff and about how their process works, but it was, AlDOT actually sent them a template on how they could structure it, how they could rank projects, or it's up to the board to select projects. So, but getting those projects in place and getting them planned, it is not a lot of money, I guess, you know, and we have made some, we talked about it today, so we will talk about it further. We didn't send out, but we've made recommendations in other MPOs in the state on how they can better plan those projects. Similarly, do a call for projects and let everyone know what those are. Federal Highway always looks at the projects as far as road projects for multimodal when they use federal funding. We look at those. We have recommended to MPOs to also look at those projects ahead of time and have a plan in place. I know the MPO has done that on a number of projects. Sometimes plans don't cover every road project. That can be an issue later because then we try to incorporate them. So, but we'll discuss that further, and we'll note your comments in the review, and probably have some recommendations on how that can be improved. But I know there were some other speakers. I just wanted to address those two things.
Could you do me a favor, give us your name again and your official organization?
Okay. I'm Clint Andrews.
Hi.
I'm with Federal Highway Administration in the Alabama Division. Here, Federal Highway has an office in every state. We work closely with the Alabama DOT and with the MPOs. I am with the planning department, or our planning team. So we look at planning, environment, right of way, and Safety is on our team too. We're a small office, but we work with the DOT in organizing federal funds. And the planning, this review is joint with Federal Transit Administration. They have regional offices, so they're in Atlanta. They are not here today, but called in today during our staff time. So we met all day with MPO staff to find out what their process was, what they saw as issues. We talked about a number of processes and all their documents. We have reviewed the documents in detail, and then we'll issue a report following this meeting, and we will meet with your board tomorrow, your public officials, to get their input on the process also. This is about the process, and those were very good comments about Ted. We do it when we issue the report. It can be geared toward ALDOT on what they need to do, what the MPO staff needs to do, what the transit operators need to do as far as the planning process. We don't normally comment too much on project or the project selection process. Federal Highway and FDA don't select projects. That is up to your board. They're free to select whatever projects, as y'all may well know. So, but the process for selecting them should be open and transparent, and the committee should have input. So, there were a number of comments last time on the input, and the MPO, I think, has done a very good job of addressing those. One is posting agendas, posting minutes, so y'all do know what's going on if you have not looked at those. I think that's, and so we'll take any other comments. Somebody else want to?
Yeah, I was talking with engineering this morning and, well, pretty much all day following the current project toward Madison Square Mall, and the demolition process started Friday, and I was wondering maybe what they can do with that little median there as you come out the side entrance of J.C. Penney's, and that little, I wouldn't say crosswalk, but the median that goes into that other shopping center, as you cross there, but Nick was telling me in the engineering department, some other guy I was talking to this morning said they couldn't put a crosswalk there. I get that because there's not a red light right across there. I get that doing the way it's designed, but it's like you have to look down at the current light to go across there. And if they build another apartment complex there, the problem we have now is only gonna get worse. By the time they put, like I said, I don't know what their plan is or what the design is or how they're gonna face it, but whatever they put there and however many more people go, like 200, 300, 400, when you come out of there and go to that signal that's already there, when you come out that side entrance to go across the street to the current parking, the shopping area, it's like you have to look to the old Monrovia signal to get across to where you're going. It's like there's no crosswalk. I understand there can't be a red light because the current red light's already there, but there's got to be like in the little median there's got to be like a yellow flashing light or something there to let somebody know that pedestrians are going across, because like they told me too, I know there's no sidewalk areas there, and I don't know what they're gonna do about in between there, but something's gotta be done there, because with more people, by the time they build the apartment complex and more people coming, something's got to be done.
That's a
With
little,
the-
that's a
Is
little
that
out
a-
of
the holiday
HWA's
season,
purview.
but
That's
But
the
a
holiday
is that a
season
city
coming.
project?
That is a
Like I
local
was-
redevelopment project in Madison Square.
Yeah,
Garden.
right.
And we've-
Because with
we've
the
talked
holiday
a little bit
season
about
coming,
this
like I was telling you, I go out there quite often, take the shuttle out there,
I
go
would-
shopping. With the holidays coming, I went, and I like to go across the way and go to H.H. Gregg just to look at televisions, just to look at them, just to see what's what. I'll look at the Sunday paper flyers, but with more people coming, and it's all, like I say, that little median right there is a problem anyway, and with more people coming, it's gonna be a bigger problem.
I will speak a little bit to that, because I am am organizing a committee now on that very issue. And, I don't relish being a city engineer because, it is very hard to decide where to put crosswalks and how to mark them. Federal Highway has an initiative called STEP, Safe Transportations for Every Pedestrian. That's what we're looking at now, and it is unsignalized crosswalks. Those are an issue nationwide. Cities are very hesitant to put them in sometimes. Federal Highways issued safety data on how to properly install them. It's below us, 40 miles per hour, they can be marked, and a certain amount of traffic. But even then, Federal Highway recommends, more markings. The threshold between having a marked crosswalk and an unmarked crosswalk at an unsignalized location is very hard engineering-wise to decide. So the standard is, try to go to a marked crosswalk, go to a signalized intersection. But when you have those mid-blocks, that's kind of what everybody wrestles with. Yes, sir.
I've seen situations where they have signalized blocks, mid-block, large mid-blocks in California, to signal for the pedestrian to go across.
Right, and we talked about that today. They have installed one on Holmes Avenue, I believe it was, at UAH. It's a push button, they're called a hawk signal. It was the old name for them, now rapid flashing beacon. But it is, those are not widespread in use yet, so drivers and pedestrians sometimes don't know what to do with those. So until we have so that's one thing, is to educate the public what those are, because they start flashing and when you can move. And the other problem with those is you can't put those in every location. I mean, they're just, those are about $100,000 installation minimum. Seen them up higher than that when you have to tie them into the signal system. The other option is just to put the flashing yellow lights. That can be a liability issue with high-speed roads. So you have to do an engineering study, and when you start looking at every crosswalk, trying to do an engineering study for it, it's a daunting task. So a bike ped committee can help with that. The city engineer has to help with that, and evaluate each location independently. Your project, even if it were a federal project, we probably wouldn't comment on it. That's kind of past the planning process. We're looking, I understand it's an issue, and it'll take, Dennis is here and Tanya is here, and I know they will take it back to their city engineers. That's in the project development process, and even for federal projects, we have engineers that look at specific problems. Those are project questions, and we get a lot of those, especially when we're doing environmental documents. So we really want to look at the process though before it gets to there. Do you have a plan? Did they follow a plan, or but we'll discuss that with them. All of the project stuff, you're fair to bring up project issues, because it does bring light to the planning process also.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to throw it out there now. Like I said, I don't know how they design it or what their remodel process is. It's so they can take advice of depending on what their design is, exactly what their design is.
Would you like-
Thin payment, I don't have to speak
if you'll just tell us your name.
Yeah, Ben Payment, I'm also on the Basque Committee with Jamie and, part of the Greenways Planning, Committee with, City Council and the Land Trust. And, I guess I have seen, you know, as the planning process goes on, there's always, judicial boundaries that come up, right? So like, a great example would be the state road close to the city. And so the challenge then in a multimodal sort of like implementation is, hey, we're gonna do something multimodal. And we get to the jurisdictional barrier, right? So if the plan or recommendation is one thing, I guess what aspect of the MPO can help to, I guess, work on both sides of the fence to ensure that they come together in a nice fashion, or that, you know, one side implements the same standards as the other. And I guess a great example of that is Governors Drive. I know that that intersection from Walnut Parkway, you know, both those being state highways. But then we as City of Huntsville wanna, you know, do some sort of multimodal through that corridor. And I guess it's a larger entity, you know, that this group or whatever to work with that to help us to get through that intersection, across that intersection, what in the planning process and I guess follow up and verification that this work is.
Okay. It is federal highway USDOT policy to install bike ped on every project unless there's exceptional circumstances. And that's a pretty high threshold, that's where the MPO plans do come into play. So if there's not a plan for Governor's Drive, it does cause problems. If there's not a project for Governor's Drive or for an intersection that causes problems. But,
I guess maybe a more specific example would be good. So there are crosswalks at the intersection, but the crosswalks don't have handicap accessible ramps, and they don't actually go to sidewalks. So I reported to the city, and the city says, hey, that's not our problem, that's a state road, we can't do anything. I report to the state, and I don't get any response.
the state has a pretty robust program right now to do curb ramp replacements. That's in their ADA transition plan. They are looking, when Federal Highway has a project, before we can authorize one, they have to install ramps. So when they go to resurface the road, they will have to install. That is required for all public entities. We do not look at state or city projects, city-funded projects, so that's up to them to do their own project. But if it's federally funded, the state is installing those ramps prior to us resurfacing or rebuilding the project.
So someone with the city of Huntsville, but I think that road just got resurfaced 2 years ago, just got resurfaced, and they didn't address that. So who can we contact, or in an MPO, help us saying, hey, whistleblow, whatever, like, why is that not getting done?
That process has been going into place for quite a few years. Department of Transportation and the Department of Justice came into that agreement in 2012. So if it was prior to 2012, we it could have slipped through, and it took a year or so to figure out who is required, what are the requirements. So, and to get that word out to how, so we are reviewing that pretty often. I can't point to that one project, but, we are working, like I said, the state has programmed, they're above their goal of replacing curb ramps statewide. There's some divisions that are ahead of others. I know this region has installed a number of them in other locations. I'm not sure about Huntsville. But it does happen, it should be happening at all resurfacing projects. That's the agreement with DOJ and, Federal Highway. And it is published online, but, for years, the definition of alteration, has been the problem with that. Department of Justice wanted alteration to be anything more than fixing a pothole. Federal Highway said, no, resurfacing is not an alteration, it's maintenance. So that's how that happened, but advocates, came out and said, you know, they're seeing trucks out there, big trucks, big equipment, and they're not fixing the curb ramp. So, and we had many, across the country, we had, you know, we were tearing out as much as 2-3 inches of asphalt and putting it back. And it was, and then some were trying to limit it to a ½ inch. DOTs were not on board, even on the resurfacing. I mean, that was kind of a shock to many of them, because, and municipalities too, because now they're required to do it. So now there's a few things they can, and some of it can look like resurfacing. They can it's called a fog seal or a micro surfacing. They can do one of those operations on it to seal it. And some of it can look, but if they do 2 or 3 of those operations, it's considered an alteration. We have a chart that tells you where the cutoff is. And that was a long negotiation between Federal Highway and DOJ to come to a decision where that line was. And now, sidewalks are not required to be fixed or they're not required to be fixed or be repaired. That's a separate entity. So when you get right outside the curb limits, we're saying the crosswalk and the ramps are required. So that's what's required on resurfacing. After that, it has to be part of their transition plan. And it could be out of, you know, and that's still an ongoing process. All transition plans are, the state has one begun, but getting it down to the route and the actual piece of sidewalk to be replaced, their commitment is they're gonna start doing them on resurfacing projects, for their own, the ones they own. So we will see some of that, but it's required to be on a plan and then to have a plan to upgrade it in the next so many years. Yes, sir.
Well, on those same lines then, if we have a future case of resurfacing, and we don't on a state road, and the state doesn't respond, can we contact the Federal Highway and ask them to step in?
Yes, you can call our office anytime. But,
I mean,
and we can work with the DOT on why it wasn't or why, yes. I mean, we're always open to, we are the enforcement agency.
Right, so for some reason they goofed up or
We are.
accidentally or on purpose, and we could contact the Federal Highway and ask them to intercede and talk to the Department of AlDOT.
Right, and we can find out why it wasn't done, but in most cases, like I said, you should be seeing a lot of curb ramps, installed across, locations. I know the state has a number of them in the STIP for, installation, and they're scheduling them before they have to resurface the road, because that's the requirement. So when it comes over, when a project for resurfacing comes over for us for authorization, I mean, that's one of the questions they're supposed to be telling us, yes, we're replacing them. Some are going, and I don't know what the North Region is, I would have to check. You could ask that at the next technical meeting. The region engineer we know, or the maintenance engineer could come. Some of them are going out, some intersections are very difficult to do, so they go out and build the curb ramps as a separate project. But they're required to do it before they resurface the roads.
This is mainly for you guys. I don't know if this is mainly a city project, but 2 years ago, I had mentioned something. Now, I know spring, 2 years ago, we had some bad weather and all, and now that hockey season's in progress, and especially this time at night, down there by the Civic Center, and I think even in the spring before the project started, I mentioned something to John Hamilton, down there by the water where the current project is going on. Those crosswalks down there by the Civic Center where they're doing the project down there by the water, like I say, the one time I had mentioned something, they had rainy weather and all on engineering, so they had looked at them. But those crosswalks that you need painting for 2 years. And I was wondering I don't know if you have to get money from them or who goes about the budget process to have that done, but those crosswalks down there by the Civic Center had been done for at least 2 years.
They're gonna get redone when Big Spring West is done, right?
I
Because
think
they're getting trod on with
when that project
money.
started, I think that's what John Hamilton said, that was gonna be part of the project. What I heard on the news, they said something about the project was ahead of schedule due to the weather being nice. Yeah, them crosswalks have been done for at least 2 years. Paint job wise.
Any other comments or on the process or bicycle pedestrian?
It's dangerous.
Well, like Leanne said, I've got cards up here. We have speaker cards you can turn in now. If, Leanne's, contact information is up here. And then, like I said, I have cards also.
Is that where we send the comments that we had on?
Yes, if you would send them to Leanne, I will send them to her. So, like, she is collecting all of them. If you send, if somebody has one of my cards from before, that's fine. Yeah, she has business cards over here. I will put some out too, but, we will collect comments. You're welcome to, use the speaker or, we don't have form to make comments, but it can be in any form, email, written, whatever. And if there, you know of others that could come tonight, like I said, we will take comments for 30 days on the process. And we we'll share those with the MPO and we'll try to consolidate comments on issues so that, and address any of them that y'all have. So if y'all have, if we have a number of the same comments, we'll address those. Okay. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
Well,